Welcome back to JPAD Tune In. Guys, we've got a wicked guest coming up for you this week. But before that, if you haven't before, hit that subscribe button down below, as we'd love you to see all the videos we've got coming up for this series and everything else that we're doing. So the next guest, we've known him since the very start. His name is Tez Shackleton. He is a director of the BCA, so anybody that doesn't know, that's the British Cheerleading Association, one of the event providers here in the UK. Let's move on and let him introduce himself and see what he's got to say.
Thanks for coming on. In 45 seconds, for those that don't know who you are, can you give a brief introduction, say who you are, where you're from, what you do?
45 seconds, that's all you're giving me?
Yeah,
Wow.
so, yeah,
All
you
right.
got to think about this one.
I mean, not really, it's all up here. Okay, so my name's Tez, for those who obviously don't know me. I'm now director of BCA. I started at BCA in 2012, where I was taken on to start running the training and education department. Quickly jumped straight into that role. Very, very quickly, it became a huge part of BCA. It's now taken off and developed huge amounts over the last however many years, to a point where it's probably one of the biggest camp providers now in the UK. We've also developed our own qualification course from there. Myself, in general, for cheer, I started in 2006 on university team in Plymouth. Back then, obviously, there was no level system. It was just kind of senior, novice, intermediate, advanced levels. I've competed in all levels, all the way from 1 all the way up to level 7. I've competed in America 3 times, twice at the Americheer Championships and once at Worlds in 2014. I've also competed in Europe in 7 different countries at European Championships. I've helped take Team England POM to the ICU World Championships, as well as European Championships, along with the coaches back then, which was Rachel Swinton and Leanne Woodcock. And yeah, I was also the athlete rep for the ECU as well, nominated onto the board of that a few years back. I was also on the training side of the board for Sport GGB. So I've kind of...
I mean, you got a massive resume then for it.
quite a bit. Yeah.
Brilliant. Like, so obviously you just said you started in like at Plymouth at university. Had you heard about it or done anything before that,
No.
or?
So I actually wanted to be a dancer when I was young.
Okay.
And I never really got the opportunity to kind of pursue that path. I actually have a huge love for animals. My degree, I've got 2 degrees. One was in zoology and one was in environmental biology. So I kind of went down I wanted to be a zookeeper path. And it wasn't until I actually got to university that I was like, maybe I can actually join a dance team. I went along to the first session for the dance. Really didn't get along with the coach at the time. And then I was like, okay, maybe it's not for me. Bearing in mind, this was also my 3rd year that I was
okay.
something new. And then as I was kind of heading home, the cheer team from that university was outside recruiting, went along, spoke to them, went along to my first session and kind of never looked back since.
And the rest is history.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, that's a pretty good path. Like, obviously, you know, going from Zookeeper to
yeah
director of an event provider.
That's kind of how it all started. Obviously, when I finished university and I went back home, I spent that year then kind of going from interview to interview within various zoos around the UK, trying to obviously get a job as a zookeeper. During that time, the team that I joined back home in Leeds, a team called Cats Elite, they don't exist anymore, unfortunately. But their coaches were actually judging for BCA back at the time.
Oh, okay.
Started helping out as staff, just like I have our warm-up staff now. And yeah, after maybe a year or 2, I reached out to Derek at the time. I was like, oh, you know, I would love to do this kind of full time. And then eventually a job offer became available. I had to interview. There was quite a few other applicants that all interviewed at the same time, including, I think there was about 2 from America. And then, yeah, I was offered the job to start in 2012.
Ah, blimey. Right. See, I've known you for how long now? And I never knew that.
Well,
It's not something you talk about, really, is it?
no, it's not. No, if someone always ever asks, how did I get into cheer? Then, I mean, generally I would say I really didn't want to do my uni work on my third year. So, so that's why I joined the cheer. But no, it's ever since my first session with that cheer team at university, there was always been that kind of drive to, oh, I want to learn this, I want to learn that. So I'd never done any gymnastics or anything beforehand. So within that third year that I was at university, I was going to adult open gymnastics classes. I was learning how to tumble. It wasn't until I actually started all-star cheer that I quickly realized actually it's probably better that I was taught proper technique from the beginning. And that's why I think, especially now with all the training and the education I do, and the way that we're running stuff like our BCQ courses and our qualifications, that we focus a lot on technique, because I know firsthand what it's like to try and start something like gymnastics or tumble without any technique prior, without any flexibility, without any proper conditioning.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those things that's now taken over my life, and spent the last year literally itching to get back to work.
Yeah, no, I know exactly how you feel there. But like when you go, obviously when you look at the courses and you say like you look at the technique and all that, what actually goes into that? Like how do you start? Like,
I mean, so the qualification side themselves, obviously, most of it has been myself kind of like laying out a path that and a vision that I want this qualification to go with. But you know, I'd be lying if I said these qualifications weren't possible without a lot of input from the actual coaches in the industry. You know, I've got such a good team at the moment behind these qualifications that are helping out. We've got a lot of new stuff in the pipeline that's hopefully going to be rolled out soon as well. But yeah, I mean, especially with gymnastics, a lot of the technique does come down to what is taught from a gymnastic background. So we do try and take on that. I mean, I remember when I actually first wrote level 1 for BCQ, me and some of us actually sat down with some correspondents from British Gymnastics to go over the course material and how we were going to teach, so that they could give us some advice on, okay, we'll make sure it's, you know, follows kind of this pattern, or
yeah, sort of fine tuning kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I've got some of the staff at the moment who are sitting gymnastics courses constantly. They're doing workshops, they're doing conferences all through this you know, year-long pandemic that we've just had, that so that they can keep up to date and then bring their knowledge in to make the qualification even better. Ideally what we want is for someone to do these courses to walk away going, okay, I can start actually from scratch and break down every single skill to a finite point where that athlete then, you know, completely understands the full mechanics of the skill being taught. And I think that's what, for us, the technique side's all about. It's making sure that the coach and the athlete can break down each point of the skill, and that's what creates the perfect technique.
Yeah, and I bet have you found that like during this time that it's been a massive challenge, because obviously you used to do the courses in person, didn't you, at the gym?
Yeah.
And like what's it been like having to do that over?
So for me, I was actually quite concerned to start with, because I wasn't sure that we would be able to offer these same standard of courses over Zoom. When we're in an in-person environment, obviously the coaches book on, they then come and they learn from us in person, but we also use demo groups, we use the facilities, we teach them how to use minimum equipment as well as maximum equipment. So based on the hosting gym, we can do all of the drills and stuff for the skills that we're teaching with what we've got. It then took me a good few months to adapt those courses to an online Zoom version, which would make it a lot easier for everyone on the Zoom to follow the course, to follow what's going on. The way we actually run the course is there's no handbook, there's no manual for coaches when they book on. We're very big believers of, if you are listening and you are taking notes, you're going to have everything from this course that you need. The course is done using videos as well as our actual teaching. You know, I know I've seen some of the other staff when they're teaching, and we're in our living rooms now, we're, you know, moving about, we're all over the place. You know, if I was to sit here and teach with you right now, I have a shoe right next to me ready, so that I can, stuff like that, where we have had to adapt a little bit, but all in all, it's actually been really good. Like, I think it has been a huge step for us, because it's really helped to elevate the courses and push them to an even bigger level, that I can sit here now going, yeah, not gonna lie, this course is great. Like, you can sit on a Zoom now and still have that same standard. If anything, it's actually a little bit better because we're not sat in a cold gym. So
yeah,
we'll be heating on at home, and yeah, and actually I think it's worked a lot better for people because it's no longer a full day. So we've split the courses over two consecutive days and just reduced the number of hours. So I think it's worked a lot better. We've had a lot of good feedback from what we're doing on Zoom. So
yeah, because I suppose if you splitting it over the 2 days, because instead of getting all that sort of information and content into one, and people potentially being overwhelmed by it, aren't they? Whereas now they can consume it and
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is very different when it's in person. When you run it over 2 days, then everyone else has to then look at accommodation costs, travel costs. So I think doing it over Zoom has worked really well within the current climate. We might still continue to offer virtual Zoom after the pandemic's over, but I do feel that there is benefit to in person. We can help them a lot more, especially for anyone who's new to coaching cheerleading, where, you know, they might struggle with the grips a little bit more, they might struggle with the actual technique, because technique isn't just from like gymnastics, it comes all the way down to what we do in our stunts, what we do in our jumps, even our motion technique. And these are all the fine points that we can really hammer out an in-person course that we might not be able to do as much over Zoom.
Yeah, no, that's true. Very true. And like you just said about like the traveling accommodation, that I remember when you was allowed to do it in person, you was constantly seeing like on your social feed that you were down like in the south of England, and then all of a sudden you're in Scotland, and it's like, oh my god.
Yeah, so I actually worked out that since I started working for BCA, I roughly do around 12,000 miles a year, like just for training purposes.
Yeah.
Then obviously that's not including the actual competition side. And obviously we know, you know, if we've got competitions all over, but yeah, the training itself can be very, very hectic. There's been months, like you said, where I'll be down on the south coast, then I'll be up here, then I'll be back over there. I don't think there's many roads actually that I have traveled in the UK right now. I've been all the way up to the farthest reaches of Scotland. You know, I did a camp for a team over on Stornoway, which was crazy to get to. And that took like 2 different planes. I was like, okay, we're still in the UK, right? Summer's even crazier for me. So summer,
Because you do summer camps, don't you?
yeah, I spend the whole month of summer from like end of July all the way to the end of August out on the road. And that's obviously where we bring over our special guest coaches for that year. And now we'll just travel around the UK doing open camps as well as private team camps. I think for the last, obviously not last year because we weren't able to do it, but the last couple of years, I might have spent 2 days at home throughout the whole of summer. Yeah.
You love it, don't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, the traveling is difficult. Like, you're always driving to one place, you check in a hotel, you're up early next morning, you teach the camp, then you drive to the next place, check in. So the actual traveling to and from does take it out of you. But I think that's then overshadowed a lot by the actual teaching and the fun that we have at summer camps.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Like, because it's like us with competitions, like, and events and things. No 2 days are the same.
Oh no, absolutely not.
Like, and the variety in it always makes it amazing, I think.
You know, and especially through cheer, and then there's probably a lot of people out there who are saying, but you meet so many new people, meet so many interesting people. Like, you know, some of my best friends now in America are people who we brought over from to help, like with either events or summer camps or even our conference. You know, the conference that we did a few years ago. All of those people that we came over, we build instant relationships with, and now we talk to each other constantly.
Yeah. Well, it's a massive relationship building kind of thing, and it's from people with all walks of life, sort of thing. And,
yeah.
But like on the like travel sort of side, where you said obviously you've been to America, competed there several times, and done all like the Europeans as well. Like, how did you get there? Like, was it obviously through a lot of hard work, I'm guessing, but was it a goal?
Yeah.
Did you want to go, right, I want to compete on the world stage, I want to compete at Europeans? And
yeah, so US was something I think I actually ended up doing first, and this came about from when I moved to Sheffield. So before I actually even got my job for BCA, I worked for the RSPCA.
Okay.
And I was living in Sheffield at the time. Joined a team there that was actually kind of like head coached by my best friend Charlotte, and yeah, that particular team at the time used to go to UKCA events, and UKCA used to send teams to Europeans, or what was the old Europeans. And then, yeah, I think I must have competed 2 or 3 times with them. And then I went to compete in Germany with aviators from Leeds. I actually choreographed a team in Spain. Well, no, it was in Tenerife. So I went over, stayed for a few days, choreographed a whole routine for them that they were then taking to Spain to compete. It ended up in one of the stunt groups, one of the girls didn't actually want to compete on the day, so I ended up stepping in. So yeah, I actually ended up competing at the Arnold Schwarzenegger Classic, which is like a huge bodybuilding event, but they were having cheerleading as kind of like one of the side competitions. And then my competitions in America, that was the first 2 were actually through BCA All Stars at the time. So this was kind of before there was actually a national Team England. You know, it was before all of that was set up. Some people who are not really involved in cheer anymore, but again, probably like huge drivers for BCA at the time. They set up BCA All Stars. Myself and some other athletes obviously all tried out. The first team we took, none of us really knew what to expect. None of us really knew what was even going on. For us, it was just a group of people that were all coming together from different teams. You know, we were trying level 5 stuff. We kind of more just went for fun. And to be honest, that's what we had. We had an absolute blast. All the people at Americheer were incredible. They were really, really welcoming. And then when we came back, we were like, okay, we want to do it properly. So then we had the second BCA All Stars. Travis, who's one of the other directors of BCA, obviously, he then also came on board as kind of like a consultant. He came to Americheer with us, like a lot more strict than our old coaches, especially when we got to America itself, because the first year was all, yes, let's just lounge by the pool and wait till competition day.
Yeah.
This was, okay, no, this isn't a holiday. This is, you're here to compete. So
Yeah, you mean business.
on the field, training. And I think it was at that time that I was like, okay, I'd actually really like to get onto that world stage now, because it was in the same place. So Americheer was always run at ESPN, and that's where Worlds is run. So that's where, when I moved down to London for my job at BCA, I was like, okay, I really want to try out for Worlds team. I tried out for Rising Stars, and that's the team I ended up going to Worlds with. So even from then, I was traveling from Watford all the way up to Manchester and back once a month for training for the Worlds team.
Blimey. Like when you finally got to the world stage, like what was that feeling like?
I mean, the feeling of the actual competing was amazing. Like I do, for me, I'm always kind of like, I like to set a goal, and then I love that feeling of accomplishment when you get there. Now, I don't think, there's many people who wouldn't enjoy that. Obviously, having been to the same place already twice, it probably wasn't as great a feeling as someone who's going to America for the first time. But I mean, the scale of competition itself was huge compared to this small competition at Americheer. So I think even that was then what elevated the experience even more. You've got, all of a sudden now there's 2 different halls being used. There's thousands of people there. And yeah, I loved every second. I always say, if there's one competition I probably would do again, it would be Worlds, probably just without the tumble side of it. So I'd look to join like a non-tumble team instead. So I think my body's a little bit too old to be trying to throw myself around with flips and stuff now.
Never too old, Tez. Never too old.
Yeah.
There's me saying that I've never tumbled in my life. So yeah. No, like, but for like a young athlete now that's in the All-Star like teams that has a goal they want to be on that world stage, like what would you say to him? How, like,
I think I would always say, just never lose sight of that goal. Like, no matter how hard you have to work, no matter how long it takes you, if you want that goal, you will eventually get it if you keep sight of it. Like, I think there's a lot of athletes still at the moment who are like, yeah, I want to go to Worlds, but they need to take a step back and realize that actually Worlds is always going to be there. Take the time to make sure you're ready for it. Like, I mean, when I went to Worlds, I would have loved to have had all that experience of proper gymnastics so that I could bring more to the team. Even back then, I wasn't really a good stunter. So I think there are still a lot who, yes, they want to be here straight away, but I would always say, do you know what, it's okay to take those steps, master each level first, build your way up to being on that Worlds team, because then once you're on that stage and you're showing every little bit of what you can do, that's when it's going to feel even more special, because you can walk away going, yeah, I was that perfect athlete on that world stage.
I suppose it's like what we were talking about earlier about building on your technique and taking all that into consideration. And
I think that's one thing that the UK cheer has really turned around now. Everyone is really focusing on technique. Everyone is really stripping everything back so that we are drilling, especially like tumble skills. There's there's a lot of people right now who are really coming together and going, okay, guys, here's some drills you can use. Here's this. There's some really good influencers right now on let's get this technique perfect. And I think even the score sheets are kind of replicating that. You know, our score sheet, which obviously doesn't follow the varsity score sheet, we're huge on technique. Like, we've seen teams come to our events and have amazing routines, very, very difficult, you know, really high energy, but they've lost on technique alone, because our technique and our difficulty is the exact same. It weighs the same.
Yeah.
And, you know, myself and Travis will always talk to these coaches and be like, you need to focus on the technique. And that's not just in the tumble side, it's technique in the stunting. You know, we're still seeing a lot of bases with arched backs or hunched over, you know, and they're not focusing on what they've got to do to maintain strong cores themselves. And it's little finite points like that that we're really trying to use the BCQ to teach coaches now on, especially technique, because overall, it's not just tumble technique. It's from the minute that your athletes step on that mat all the way through to the end. You know, even dance, like dance has become, how can I put this? I'm going to say dance has become so flamboyant in that, you know, there's so much energy and so much passion that can go into an end dance of a routine. But actually, if the choreography doesn't suit all the level of the team or the ability of the team, it can actually just look really messy. And that's where a lot of teams will lose, you know, technique marks on the dance section, because people are actually what's been given to them. And we see that a lot, especially in stuff like hip hop or in like lyrical or jazz divisions as well.
So it is, yeah, you can make the routine look as amazing as possible, but if the technique's not there, then it all just sort of fumbles, doesn't it?
There has to be a balance. Like, there's no point throwing, you know, everything in your kitchen sink at one routine if all your athletes aren't at a level where they can pull it off.
Yeah.
You know, like, even the best choreographers can go in and give you this high impact, very, very difficult routine and then walk away. And to them, they're like, their job's done. But one thing I always say to coaches when I do, you know, any camps or stuff, I'm like, okay, what is the ability level of your team right now? Because I don't want to give you stuff that in 3 months, you as the coach are going to have to try and change because they can't do it. Or even, you know, as a choreographer, going in and going to coaches saying, I'm going to give you all this, 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 and this, but they don't know how to teach it afterwards. So there's always that fine balance of difficulty meets technique. And it's once the team has that balance perfect or like level, that's when they're going to start coming out on top.
It's quite interesting, to be fair, because
it is. I think that's the thing a lot of people don't realize for cheer is there's so much that goes on. Like, it isn't just about, you know, the wow factor, the performance, which, don't get me wrong, like, I'm a huge performer. Like, everything I do, you know, if you ask some of the people,
I've definitely got plenty of photos of you doing that.
As Rachel might put it. Yeah. You know, that I remember when I actually did my tryout for Rising Stars for the World's team, and one of the comments on my tryout form was maybe turn it down a notch in terms of the performance. But I think that's just from, like, when I first started, it was all, okay, try and be as, you know, as big in the face as possible. So now even just like a wink is like a natural thing for me.
Yeah.
I spent so long developing this performer of myself that I'm now taking it back you know, even now that I'm not doing anything, I'll still go back and I'll still work on tight motions or still work on how to engage my own core, so that when I then go and teach, that is just natural. And it's easier for me to portray those differences to coaches.
That's right. Do you find it difficult? Because obviously it comes with your personality, doesn't it? And
yeah, I was always kind of known as the class clown. like from all through school into college. I remember one of my actual college teachers even kind of like addressing me and was like, "Who do you think you are, the class clown?" And everyone around just went, "Yes." I've always kind of been very outgoing, very lively, very energetic kind of person. And I think, you know, if that's probably why I fit into this sport so well, because I don't have to change anything about myself. I can be me, and it works in this sport. So yeah,
that's it. There's no hiding. Like, you don't have to. You can sort of.
And it has served a lot. I've done quite a few camps and workshops with other teams on just performance based and trying to get their athletes out of their little comfort shells and just be like, do you know what? When you step onto that mat, you just take a huge breath and you let go of everything. Because when you're holding it all in and you're bottling up, that's when nerves kick in. That's when, you know, you overthink, you start to make mistakes. If you just walk out there, let it all out, put a smile on, good to go. And then once they're relaxed, the brain just naturally kicks in. Then, you know, I always say to kids, I'm like, you don't all of a sudden forget everything you've been working on when you walk out to that mat. That's you putting a stop to that yourself. You're consciously doing that. So by just relaxing before you walk on, it'll all come flooding back and you'll get through your routine and breeze. You won't even notice.
Yeah, you know exactly what you're doing. And
I do like, I feel like I actually use my personality when I teach as well. Like, there's probably a lot of people out there who tell you that when they've had me in, I like to make all the athletes feel relaxed with me, so that, you know, I'm not this really scary, intense person who's coming to teach them. I'm just another coach. You know, I like to have fun. I like to kind of joke around a little bit. But I've personally found that by doing that, I'm getting better results from the kids and from the athletes. You know, I'm not going in this military style and trying to hammer them into drills. I bring a bit of a sarcastic attitude. I bring a bit of a, you know, a joker to it. And then I found the kids are all more at ease, and then they work harder because they're actually having fun whilst we're doing choreo, whilst we're doing drills. So yeah, I think my actual personality does really help a lot.
that's good. Like, we try and do that as well, with like try and get our personality out. Especially, obviously it's a bit hard when we're photographing like the mat, but like in the studio kind of thing. Especially like with like Adam, I mean, you know what he's like, and
Adam's got one of those infectious personalities. Like, once people actually get to know him properly as well, you can't help but be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to smile in every shoot you do. So, yeah,
it's trying.
That's for sure.
Yeah, it's trying to get that, but obviously we've got limited time to do it. But it is trying to get that across, and trying to tell like parents and athletes that for the mat photographers, like, just go up to them and tell them where you are, and if you want to be photographed, tell them, because otherwise that they will photograph the whole routine. But if you're like, oh, I'm in this stunt, I really want you to capture it, they'll be like, yeah, of course. But obviously we've got, the difference with us is the time. Like, we've got very limited time to do that. And
if you guys find that's it, routine's over and you missed half of it.
it's like, oh, but yeah.
Are you guys gonna, obviously I know it's kind of expansion, but look at trying to do like multi-angle photography if you can eventually? Like,
yeah, so eventually when we get back into it, and obviously depending on like what restrictions we return to, it will be looking at getting the multiple angles. I mean, we've done it at a couple of events with obviously one in the center, one on the side. But if I can get more of that, then that's what I'd like to do. Because the parents they love the different angles. And for sometimes like there's like the kids that are at the back of the routine, they're covered in the photos, aren't they, by the people that are at the front, and it's trying to get them as well. But that is something that I want to get into. It obviously just depends on how restricted we are when we go back. But
it's going to be very interesting. So.
It'd be very, like I was saying it to the other people that I've spoken to, but the first event back when everyone's allowed in, do you like it's going to be an overwhelming, I think. Like,
Yeah, I think it's going to be in every back of everyone's mind, like very conscious of, okay, do we need to split people here? Do we need to do that? So there's always still going to be that. But the way I'm looking at it is, as soon as we can have everyone back, I'm going to be going up to Paul and Jamie. I'm like, right, great, let's get party music on. So let's get beach balls flying around the venue.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be a celebration of how our event should be.
Yeah.
You know, if we can have events still go on for the rest of the season, you know, we've still got 3 potentially planned, June and July, obviously including our nationals. Now those are, I'm assuming, going to be restricted numbers. So those are the ones that I think, after all this time of us just wanting to get back to running an event, getting the athletes back on the mat, you know, the coaches back to sat at the front jumping up and down like they do, like those are the ones I think are going to be difficult for us, because we're just going to want them to go back to normal straight away, but they're not going to. But yeah, that first one where it is going to be back to how it was, I think that's going to be a huge celebration event.
Oh yeah, with that, like, and it's going to be strange. Like the mindset in everyone is like, although we appreciated it when we did it before, but the appreciation that's going to be there now,
it does,
is
and
going to be unreal. I think
even for myself looking back, all those little things that we probably took for granted, now I'm going to be like, do you know what? No, we're going to make sure that when we go back, every single coach feels welcomed. Every single coach walks away going, absolutely love this weekend, cannot wait to come back. And that's going to be our goal from now on is, you know, we've got a whole year without being able to do this.
Yeah.
So now when we move forward, we're just going to cherish every single moment that we have with those coaches who have honoured us by bringing their teams, you know, those athletes who are walking out onto our mats. We're going to make them feel like royalty at every single event.
Yeah. Oh yeah, without doubt.
I can't wait.
I can't wait either. Like I keep saying,
come on.
I keep saying, like I used to, like you'd walk away with like a massive headache from all the screaming and that, and it's like, oh my god. But now I'm just saying, like, I want that headache. Give it.
That's the thing that, yeah, like, you know, there's so many times where they're stressed because things are having to change on the day, like running orders, or all of a sudden the sound system in warm-up is playing up, or, you know, the laptops have gone down, and all the things that when we're usually at event, we're like, oh my god,
Yeah.
look, I can't do this anymore. And now I'm like, bring it back on. Let me deal with that. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'd rather have that than what we've got currently, which is no events. You know, I mean, even for our company right now, there's only Travis working. The rest of us have been on furlough since last March. You know, even now I'm like, I'm done with being on furlough. This, you know, I'm not one to sit at home twiddling my thumbs.
Yeah. You want to just get moving.
Yeah. Like, I mean, even, you know, I'm offering teams right now free Zooms. You know, I'm not charging anyone for Zoom because it doesn't affect me. Like, I'm at home anyway. So for me to do an hour class and do fun dance choreo, it's an hour of my day that I'm actually enjoying it. So why not? I just can't wait for that day that we can go, yes, back to business.
Yeah, without a doubt. But like, say, for if you could say like one thing to keep everyone going and motivated to move, like we will be there kind of thing, what would you say to all those athletes out there that are waiting patiently?
Okay. Throw me on the spot there. I mean, I think it's just a case of, like, if we ever look back into history, every little thing or every big thing that's happened has always been small steps along the way. Like wars weren't won overnight. There had to be perseverance. There had to be like patience. And I think that's just the same with what we're going through now. Obviously, not all the, the tragedy and the death and everything like that, but we're all in this together. We're all in the same boat. And as long as we can keep, helping each other through it, one thing I would always say to coaches is communicate with each other. Like we're always open for jumping on a Zoom call. If coaches are ever down, they can always message. I'll happily jump on Zoom calls with coaches and just have a tea time chat. Like stuff like that, I think is what's going to get us through. For the athletes, the thing I would generally say right now is keep going with the Zooms. Keep going with the stuff that their coaches are trying to put out there for them. I know it's difficult because everyone's probably over Zoom right now, but the coaches are doing the best they can in these situations, and the athletes can support that by still getting involved, and then the more we just keep doing this day by day, eventually we'll all realize actually it's over and we can all go back to normality. But I think there'll be a greater sense of achievement from everyone who keeps getting involved, rather than just kind of pulling back right now and going, I'm done with Zoom, I'm just going to wait until we can go back to the gym. Because I still feel like there's a lot that can be learned over Zoom, especially if coaches are going out of their way to bring in guest coaches. They're going out of the way to set up timetables and schedules, because they're still putting in all the work. So I still feel it's important for the athletes to put in the work as well. Respect what their coaches are trying to do for them. For the coaches, just keep going. We're all doing this together. If you're struggling, do reach out to us, because that's why we're here. We don't just put on competitions. We're here to give you advice. We're here to give you, that 10-minute, even if it's just a moan that you need, just to get it all out of your system. I'll happily sit on the phone for an hour to someone while they just rant and rave. Doesn't bother me, because at the end of the day, that coach is then going to be going away going, okay.
Yeah, breath of fresh air. Be like,
yeah, absolutely.
That's the main thing, isn't it? Like, you've got to remember, like, we're all in it together, and like
Exactly.
all it takes is a phone call or a
Yeah.
text message. And even for those like that
Nothing.
you haven't heard from in a while, is it? You just text them going, how you doing?
Yeah, absolutely. And that I think the big thing everyone to take from this is there's nothing anyone can do right now. All we can do is just wait it out, continue with what they're trying to do, continue with trying to keep the morale of athletes high. If that means, getting someone in as a guest coach, then so be it. I know that's not always easy for some coaches if they don't have the budgets, which is like for myself, I'll happily do free Zooms. I'm not charging for anyone, because I think that extra pressure from the coach isn't needed right now. But yeah, we're all going through the same thing, and unfortunately we can't really do much more than just
keep going.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, keep our heads high, take each day as it comes. If yesterday was a bad day, doesn't matter, because it was yesterday. Today's a new day, tomorrow's a new day. So that's how I kind of live my life anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I literally live in the present. I don't really think about what happened in the past, unless it's, something I can learn from, maybe a mistake, or I never really think too far into the future, because anything happened down that line, down that path.
Yeah.
Obviously, fork and split, and before I know it, I've got to take a different path. So yeah, I'm very much live today like it's your last day, and that's how you'll get through it.
So, like, if anybody listening to this, obviously you're very well known in the cheer industry, but if anybody's listening to this,
For myself, what are you talking about?
but anybody that is listening to this, that obviously you're offering the Zoom classes, like, how would they get in touch with you to
so
take
we're not
you up on that?
Yeah, so most of them at the moment I'm just kind of doing through myself. It's not really offered through BCA.
Oh no, no, that's what I meant as yourself.
The easiest way generally for anyone to get in touch is just to message me on Facebook, and then let me know what kind of days, times. I'm at the moment, I'm only really kind of offering like fun dance choreo rather than conditioning, stunt tumble exercises, because I think athletes have done so much of that over the year, but also that should be kind of like the coach's point, like teaching, that's stuff they do on a daily basis with their teams anyway. So for myself, if I'm going to do Zoom, I'd rather keep it nice and fun, and just do like dance choreo, or if it's tiny mini teams, we can just play games, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Easiest way for me generally is just message through Facebook with what day, time, and then I can check my diary and book people in.